for our next Honourable Histories. We're thinking about C.S. Lewis, who famously wrote the Narnia stories and also explained quite a lot about Christianity across England over the radio just after the Second World War. But he wasn't always a Christian. And one of the things that made a real difference for him in becoming a Christian was knowing Christians who he looked up to and respected. And you know, it took him nearly 10 years from first meeting Christians to actually becoming one himself. It might have looked a bit like this.
You can imagine Lewis and Tolkien walking around the leafy suburbs of Oxford together.
Even though I'm not a Christian, I do look up to him.
Very kind.
When C.S. Lewis looked back on having become a Christian, he made a really interesting observation. He said, all of my life I've been looking for joy, and what I hadn't realised was if I looked for Jesus, when I found him, I'd found joy that I couldn't find in all the other places, good as they were. It could have been a bit like this.
When C.S. Lewis looked back on his life later on, he realised that he'd been looking for joy in all the wrong places, and therefore he'd never found it. Let's try, shall we? Can we find joy in a good holiday?
No.
Can we find joy through an important job?
Nope.
Can we find joy in family?
No.
Nope. Can we find joy through good friends?
Nope.
Can we find joy in chocolate?
Nope.
Can we find joy through lots of money?
Nope.
Can we find joy through our football team winning?
No.
Now, of course, Lewis would say all of those are really good things, but they just can't give you rock solid joy that will last forever and ever. And Lewis grew up to realise that he needed to look somewhere bigger to find real joy. He needed to look to the joy maker, the joy creator. Let's see.
Yes.
Joy!
So given all this, why is C.S. Lewis famous for writing about a wardrobe and a witch and snow and talking lions and all sorts of other things? Well, the reason is that C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and others, they used to write about dragons and scary things. And one time they were asked why. And one of them said this: I don't write books to make people afraid of dragons and monsters. They're already afraid of them. I write fiction books to help them know that dragons and monsters can be beaten. And that is a part of C.S. Lewis's Christianity coming through in his fiction. When C.S. Lewis became a Christian, he knew that the devil had been defeated by Jesus at the cross, and that death had been defeated by Jesus at the resurrection. As Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, death has been swallowed up in victory. So Lewis and Tolkien and many others wrote fiction as Christians because they knew Jesus had defeated the biggest enemy, death, to encourage all of us in the fictional world that those monsters and dragons can be beaten too. So I love reading Tolkien and Lewis's fiction books because they remind me that Jesus has beaten the biggest monster, the biggest dragon, by dying on the cross and rising to life again.